Welcome to the Osmo Early Bird Podcast. It's your old pal Emac coming to you with one Adam Ship My Money Share as we get ready for a split slate. Once again, we have a getaway day on Thursday, Adam. We have a robust five-gamer with the first games starting at 12:35, the final games starting at 1:15. So that's kind of a nice way. Hopefully the sites decide not to split that up. And then we've got a five-game late slate starting at 7 o'clock and wrapping up in the 9 o'clock hour. So we'll have a little bit of fun here. We're going to cover the early slate because we will have the DFS MLB strategy show about 9:15 or so on Thursday. We're recording this on Wednesday night, but you will get Josh Engelman and Dave Lochran. You know him best as Laffy D. We didn't do an MLB strategy show today just because we had wall-to-wall coverage otherwise with NHL playoff content. We had multiple NBA shows. We did multiple MLB shows. And then simul broadcasting in right about now, we have a Masters show with Jason Roslin and Ben Raza. So that is very exciting stuff here, Adam. Are you all set for the Masters, a tradition like no other?
I am not. I have to do all of my golf research as soon as we wrap up this podcast so that I can get that done tonight and be good to go.
Well, fortunately, we do have projections, ownership projections, and Fantasy Cruncher add-on. So I've got that all taken care of. I have a feeling I'm just going to let it ride, push a few crunches, and go to bed tonight. So we shall see. Let's hit this five-gamer here. We have starting off the Oakland Athletics and the Baltimore Orioles. Aaron Brooks, no, not the basketball player, no, not the football quarterback, but Aaron Brooks, the baseball pitcher, going against Dylan. I give up home runs to everyone. Bundy. Let's see. Yep, I'll be stacking the Athletics once again here. What do you think about Aaron Brooks? Have you had time to dig into him at all? Does he have much of a skill set? We know he has since the beginning of 2017, because this is where I have my filter set. I think it's just this year, but he's faced 33 righties. And let's see. Thank you, Fangraphs. He has faced 20 lefties. Not a ton of sample size here at the major leagues to look at. He's got sort of middling everything at this point. But what are you liking with him going against the watered-down Baltimore Orioles, which, Adam, I'm sorry to say, is the actual Baltimore Oriole lineup?
I'm kind of torn on Brooks. I don't think he's very good, but I think he's good enough to get by against some bad offenses, particularly ones that are righty-heavy. Orioles certainly qualify as a bad offense, but their projected lineup is more lefties than righties, and the only righty in the top five of their projected lineup is Trey Mancini, who is actually a pretty good hitter. And then you have lefties with Mullins, Dwight Smith, VR, Rio Ruiz. So the reason that I would prefer Brooks against righties is that we don't really know much about him. Nothing about his minor league track record suggests that he should be very good, but he has been throwing a slider 25-26% of the time to right-handed hitters this year. It's had some success so far. Not a devastating pitch by any stretch, but it's kept righties' numbers to a respectable level against him. Against lefties, though, doesn't throw it as often, and his changeup has just been getting absolutely smashed. Obviously, it's a very small sample size here again, but we would assume that he's worse against lefties anyway. So with a big park downgrade for him and probably facing a lefty-heavy lineup, I think it's kind of a scary spot. But at the same time, it is only a five-game slate. We do need to save money somehow. So if I'm running 150 lineups, I'm sure I would have some exposure to Brooks. If I'm hand building a lineup, I would probably pay pretty close attention to projected ownership on him.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just called up his baseball reference page here. He has a grand total, and now I remember. It's funny, you relearn all this stuff, but because we've got golf, hockey, and NBA all going on at the same time here, plus split slates for baseball, it feels like we're just running around with our hair on fire. But he has he has pitched in 71 and 2/3 innings over 4 seasons. That has been with Kansas City and with Oakland, and he started out in 2014, was stuck in the PCL for 2016 and 17. His career ERA is a 7.4. He has made, 12 starts, 20 overall appearances, He finished 6 games, so I wonder if he was kind of in the mix there in the mid 2010 decade there with that Kansas City Royals bullpen by committee when they were mucking around without a true closer because, I forget who got hurt way back when. But that does not affect us for today. So nothing overly exciting. His birthday is in a couple weeks. He will be 29, so not a fireballing lefty. Nope, he is an aging righty that has not really made much of an impact here in the major leagues. On the other side here, you've got Dylan Bundy. He led the league in home runs allowed last season, and he's looking to defend that title, Adam. What are you thinking here about Bundy going against a power-packed, power-laden athletics lineup that does come with some strikeouts?
Yeah, he has been really bad this season through his first couple of starts. And even against righties, which is the really concerning thing, he had a 30+% strikeout percentage against right-handed hitters last season. Through his first couple of starts, though, the slider is just getting absolutely destroyed. A 631 expected WOBA, 741 expected ISO allowed, 18.2% swinging strike percentage is healthy, but clearly just making a lot of mistakes with that pitch. And on one hand, you have right now Oakland with a 5.7 implied run total, which I would assume makes them clearly the highest owned offense on the slate, especially because they're favorably priced. So on one hand, on a 5-game slate, when you have someone like Dylan Bundy, who does, we know at least has upside to strike out right-handed hitters, and he's going to face a lot of popular right-handed hitters, I'd be inclined to roster him in tournaments, assuming that ownership is on Oakland, and just take my chances. I think it's one of the easier paths to winning a slate. But at the same time, that's not to say that I have confidence in him doing well, because he has been bad this year. The fastball velocity is down. The slider, like I said, is getting absolutely hammered. It is a dangerous Oakland team that gets a positive park shift. So again, it's a spot where I would pay close attention to ownership, where if I'm wrong and if Dylan Bundy is expected to be really popular and people are staying away from the A's for God knows what reason, then load up on the A's. But if you have people just flocking to Oakland, then Bundy at least has the upside to where he's good enough sometimes that he can just kind of vault you up a leaderboard.
Yeah, and to be fair, in across 2016, 17, 18, he averaged just over a strikeout per inning. He does have, he's faced 35 batters thus far this season, 9 strikeouts. The 7 walks are pretty darn concerning. Just 2 home runs allowed, but 7 walks, 8 hits. So he's had 15 base runners across 7 1/3 innings. That's just not good times there. Moving on to our next game, we have the Miami Marlins with Pablo Lopez taking on the Cincinnati Reds in the Great American Ballpark. Sonny Gray is on the other side. This looks to be an intriguing spot for Sonny Gray, who has had moments. I know he's someone that you've dug into many a time here, seemed to not be the best pitcher when he was in Yankee Stadium, but was not horrible on the road. And then he had a few moments here and there when he was with the Oakland Athletics. He was one of the guys that people like to call him Sonny the Fraud Gray. But how are you feeling with Gray going against the Marlins on Thursday?
I like him. Miami is really bad offensively. Gray's first 2 starts, mixed results. He was absolutely awful in his first one. In his second one, also against Pittsburgh, he was much better. Pittsburgh's a team that I never feel really good taking pitchers against. But the fact that he did go out and have success against them the second time made me feel good. He threw his fastball less, increased his slider usage, increased his curveball usage from that first start. So that was good to see. More breaking balls for Sonny Gray is always good. The price tag on him skyrocketed really quickly. Looking on DraftKings, he's 8,900. I think he was 6,500 or 6,700 in his first 2 starts of the season. So certainly priced up for the matchup. It is a tough ballpark as far as it plays well for hitters. But on this 5-game slate where you don't have a lot at the top end, pitcher wise, Gray is someone that I'll take my chances on.
Yeah, and he since the beginning of 2017 has faced of course, my short-term memory just died on me here. Let's see, 600. He's faced 1,300 batters. He's striking out about 21.5% combined, 21.4% righties, and 22.1% against lefties. The walk rate, a little concerning there at 9.6 against lefties and 8.6 against righties. But there are really no aces. Well, we'll talk about Shane Bieber shortly, but I don't think he qualifies as an ace just yet. But he's probably one of the better options on this slate. But Gray going against, Curtis Granderson, Brian Anderson, Neil Walker, Starlin Castro, Riddle, Lewis Brinson, whomever is the backstop, probably Jorge Alfaro. Shout out to Alfaro. He did have a 2-home run game, if I'm remembering correctly, because he ended up on a bunch of my lineups. I think that was him. In any event here, we will be looking at Gray. On the other side, you have Pablo Lopez. A bit more some question marks there with him. Against lefties, he has just a 16% strikeout rate over his last... looking at George. Oh, good God. We have 2 Grays on the lineup today, 2 Lopez's. We got... Oh, Adam, can we just go to bed? Is it too early for that? I'm ready to go to sleep. Even worse. So let's see. Jorge Lopez, not as bad. Pablo Lopez, very, very bad. Muy malo, as they might say. 2.2 home runs per 9 against righties. That is concerning. And then against lefties, he's done a little bit better, just 0.5 per 9. But that's scary that he does have those fly ball and home run tendencies, particularly going against the Cincinnati Reds, who are not, anybody who's crazy. Their lineup falls off rather quickly. But Votto, Puig, who should be rested after sitting out a couple games for trying to fight the entire Pittsburgh Pirate lineup, which was an amazing video in and of itself. You have Eugenio Suarez batting cleanup, and then Scott Schebler. But outside of that, Iglesias, Barnhart, Perez, Winker, nothing crazy there. But I think I'm definitely going to be siding with the Reds in this part of the equation. Talk to me about Pablo and then any of the Reds batsmen that intrigue you.
Yeah, negative park shift for him, obviously going from Miami to Cincinnati. And he's got a really good changeup that he uses to get a lot of swings and misses against lefties. Since last season, a 23.6% swinging strike percentage. But that's a pitch that we expect not to be as effective against same-handed hitters. And so that explains why so far we've seen more power to righties. You mentioned Suarez, you mentioned Puig in the middle of that lineup. I think either one is a really good one-off play. Obviously, Winker, Votto put the ball in play. Schebler has some power as well. But if I were hand building one lineup, my priority would be getting Puig and Suarez from Cincinnati.
Okay, and that makes a fair amount of sense. With regards to the weather, we don't have any issues. So it'll be about 60 at first pitch in Baltimore. It'll be 75. 75 at first pitch there in Cincinnati. 51% humidity there, with winds coming in from right at 9 to 12 miles an hour. So just keep an eye on that. But that'll be one of our more appealing teams here in the Reds, because they're carrying a 4.8 implied run total. A couple other games here, 3 more to go. Shane Bieber, just shy of the 5-figure club. He is 9,900. He's going against Spencer Turnbull, who is 7,900. This game will be taking place in Detroit. So here's the one. Let's talk about, I'm assuming they still call it Comerica Park. For a while, we thought it was a pitching park because it was a little bigger in the outfield than some, but that does not really seem to be the case. Now, obviously not having Justin Verlander and a few top of the end pitchers, Scherzer, etc., is going to make a difference here. But how are you feeling about Comerica Park in general?
I think it's a hitter's park. They, I believe, moved the fences in a couple of years ago, but it's also got one of the best batter's eyes in baseball. So that's why you see exit velocity trend up for hitters in that stadium. They pick up the ball better. They hit it harder. It's over the last few years, it's shifted into being a hitter's park.
All right. And batter's eye is a huge thing. A lot of people don't really remember. So that just means when the pitcher is seeing, or when the hitter is seeing the ball come out of the pitcher's hands, what is that backdrop? So generally teams have a darker color behind them, and then not a lot of variance. So when you get certain parks like Anaheim, where they have that rock pile out back with the little waterfall and such, that becomes a little trickier depending on who's pitching, but for hitters to see the ball, and it's something they don't get to see a lot. So things vary. I believe, if I remember correctly, I think when they first opened Target Field, Adam, I want to say they had like trees as the batter's eye. They were doing some sort of, I think it was like like fir trees of some sort. I want to look into that, but I remember that was like some selling point when they opened the new stadium or whatever. Well, they had to scrap it because people were having a hard time seeing the ball because it was if the wind was blowing, it was kind of a shifting, undulating backdrop, which is not something that you want to have. But back to the pitchers here, reining myself back in. Shane Bieber here going against the Tigers with a 3.8 implied run total, probably is going to be arguably our favorite pitcher thus far. What do you think about the Biebs, who is coming through his second turn here in the bigs?
Yeah, pretty nice spot for him against a Detroit team that's not very good. Bieber doesn't walk guys. He throws a lot of strikes, gets enough strikeouts to be serviceable. If he's really popular, I wouldn't mind looking elsewhere and just kind of taking chances, because 9,900 is an expensive price tag for him. And there are some lefties with power in the middle of this lineup. Nico Goodrum, Jamer Candelario, and Kristen Stewart all have at least some pop, and they're cheap. So actually you can leverage against Bieber, but it is a predominantly right-handed heavy lineup. Bieber would be, I think, my number one pitcher if we ignore ownership.
All right. So I've went and just I Googled photos of the 2010 batters. I'm going to drop this one in Slack. Yeah, there was so they weren't giant trees, but still, it's like, if you put up trees between your house and your neighbor's house, and they're just starting to grow, that's what it looked like. So you'll get a good chuckle out of this. But that's not exactly the most stable batter's eye that we have. So I'm pretty sure that was a one and done there. But
yeah, that looks like a nightmare.
Yeah, so they've got it looks like their mascot. I don't know. He looks like a bear or something. He's peeking out from behind the trees. So yeah, that doesn't seem like a good time in any event. But back to our Cleveland and Detroit matchup here. From Detroit, any of the hitters scare you a little bit going against Bieber?
The lefties would be my main concern. Castellanos obviously is a good hitter too, and at 3,800 he has some upside. But if I'm looking to leverage against him, I would look to a $3,600 Kristen Stewart or Candelario or Nico Goodrum.
Yeah, Kristen Stewart's been popping up in a bunch of my lineups lately because of his price point. So I'm glad to see that if he's in there tomorrow morning, I won't have to worry about it as much. On the other side, we have Spencer Turnbull. So he is another relative newcomer. He has faced 63 lefties and 53 righties. He is coming in with a solid K percentage of right around 24% there. So potential upside, because this is not the same Cleveland lineup that we're used to seeing. Of course, Francisco Lindor is out. Brantley's no longer with the team. Kipnis is out. So their lineup falls off rather quickly because they start off with Leonys Martín, who's a journeyman guy, lefty, get the platoon advantage, puts the ball in play. But you've got Ramirez, you've got Jake Bauers, Carlos Santana, the aging Hanley Ramirez, and then you're looking at swing from his heels, Tyler Naquin, Roberto Perez, or whomever is the backstop. Not going to be scary. And Brad Miller has resurfaced. He's got his power bat and utility skills within the infield or outfield there, but that's nothing too terrifying. Talk to me a little bit about Turnbull here at 7,900 on DraftKings.
He's a little more expensive than I would like, but I still feel better about him than if you ignore the leverage factor and the ownership of the hitters that he's going against. I prefer him to Bundy. I prefer him to Brooks. I prefer him to Lopez. So he'd be, I guess, my favorite SP2 if we ignore ownership and stuff like that. It looks like the wind should be blowing in hard in Detroit as well with cold temperatures. So that would also favor pitching in this game.
Yep, 45 degrees with 15 to 19 mile per hour winds coming in from left field. So keep an eye on that. We're going to be looking for whatever nuance we can find to gain that ever elusive edge. But that is going to kind of cover our teams, or these two teams here. The Seattle Mariners, 5.4 implied run total here, Adam. Adam, they're averaging nearly 7.5 runs per game. Did anyone see this coming with the Mariners?
Fun with small sample sizes.
So you're saying the regression monster is coming and he's hungry.
Not sure it's here, but yeah.
It potentially will be. But we've got Mike Leake, who he's getting more strikeouts, Adam. I don't know that the old dog has taught himself some new tricks, but he's been getting a little bit better strikeout rates. We have some major wind blowing out to center field. It looks like it could be potentially up to 20 miles an hour. So definitely keep an eye on that. 61 degrees here at the start of the game. Relatively neutral humidity at 40%. So that's not really going to be a major effect there. But yikes, that is some hefty wind there. We've got Leake. We've got Jorge Lopez. Do you like either of these pitchers? I guess pretty much everybody is an SP2 on today's 5-game early slate.
Right. I mean, Leake against Kansas City, I don't like it. I don't like rostering him. It's not the most dangerous offense. It is a 5-game slate, so I don't mind having some exposure to him, but I'd rather be getting to all the bats in this game than messing around with Mike Leake or Jorge Lopez.
Right. By the way, Kansas City on Wednesday night, as we are recording this, they started their lineup with Whit Merrifield, Billy Hamilton, Adalberto Mondesi, and then their 9-hole hitter was Terrence Gore, who also has he can't hit for worth a damn, but he's got some good speed. So that was an interesting lineup. Thus far, we're into the top of the third. They have two stolen bases. Mondesi has one, and Gore has one as well. That was kind of an interesting lineup decision there, Adam. Did you look into that at all? I did not get to see most of the deeper dive today, but did you? Billy Hamilton has been ensconced in that 9-hole for him, but now all of a sudden he was batting second. Was there something with Navarez or Kikuchi, who's the veteran but from Japan, so this is his first foray into the major leagues? What were they doing putting all this speed in their lineup?
Yeah, I'm not sure because we don't really have stolen base stats or context on a Japanese pitcher, but our assumption was just that they saw something that they could take advantage of, and that's why they bumped Billy Hamilton up and had Terrence Gore in the lineup.
All right, so I just wanted to call that out because that was something that was different. But keep an eye on it because it's just a reminder that Kansas City, not a ton of power in their lineup, really outside of Merrifield and Soler. Mondesi's getting some extra base hits, but a lot of that has to do with his speed. But just something to keep an eye on because we've seen some teams, they got to make do with what they have. And if they're going to decide that speed is going to turn some of their singles into doubles here, as the old proverbial saying goes, there could be some potential hidden upside that doesn't always pop up in projection models. With stolen bases, but it doesn't. The projected lineups still have Hamilton batting at the bottom and Merrifield and Mondesi leading off with Gordon back in the lineup on Thursday. But just in kind of an intriguing thing here, Soler has amazing power. Gordon is on the downslope of his career, but still a tough out, as they say. But there's O'Hearn's got some decent pop. But the bottom of that lineup is just horrible. So we'll have to see. I may talk myself into some Mike Leake here. Anything else for, I guess let's spend some time on the Mariners side. I sort of brushed it off with the number 2 offense in all of Major League Baseball. But literally everybody is on a hot streak right now. Beckham, Vogelbach, Encarnacion, Malik Smith is getting in on the act. Jay Bruce all of a sudden decided that he was going to hit once he left Citi Field there. What do you like here from the Mariners? Because 5.4 implied run total is pretty awesome for a team that we were not expecting that from. It's a half run still behind Oakland, but this is definitely a place I think we're going to find ourselves looking at some reasonably priced players. The whole stack is going to be a little bit expensive, but we're not spending on pitching. So I think that's not really going to be a constraint on Thursday in the early slate. What do you think here with the Mariners?
I really like Seattle. Sorry. If I were leveraging if Oakland is the highest owned team and I leverage against them with like a Dylan Bundy, Seattle would be the first team that I want to pivot to off of Oakland. Lopez doesn't have swing and miss stuff. He hasn't been bad. They're terrible in his time in the majors, but he hasn't been good either. Sub 10% swinging strike percentages to righties and lefties since the start of last year. 347 expected WOBA to lefties, 376 to righties. Just really not all that good. And you just have all kinds of power in Seattle's lineup. So I would really like to get there.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling because outside of Encarnacion and Bruce, I guess to a lesser extent, not really household names hitting for power. Haniger and Healy are generally sneaky in the right matchups, but Healy's been in the bottom third of the lineup all season. But it's interesting.
Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say the other thing with the Mariners, they have more speed in their lineup than they have in a long time with D. Gordon and Malik Smith now. So retooled lineup. You have to see how that one is going to play out. But you were going to add something there.
Yeah, that actually leads into what I was going to say. Martin Maldonado presumably will be behind the plate for Kansas City. He is absolutely elite at throwing out base stealers. So
good to know.
Downgrade Malik Smith, downgrade D. Gordon. I definitely would be giving priority to the power bats here, not the base stealers.
Okay. Excellent call out on that one. One more game to go. Hey, reminder, we've got a new sponsor here. That's right. We've got Yahoo Daily Fantasy. I'm sure a lot of you have seen their intriguing contests over there. They've been running a lot of featured rake-free contests. They've got some stuff up there for the Masters. If you use the promo code AWESEMO when making your first DFS deposit, they will match up to $30 in Yahoo player points, and those are available for immediate use. So you can use them, just click the little button when you're entering contests. You can choose to use the points, or you can choose to use cash that is in your account. Final game, excuse me, of our early slate. We are going to the Cardinals. Another wind game. Excuse me, sorry. Allergies are kicking my ass, Adam. It's horrible. We've got 20 plus mile an hour wind going out there to left. We have a nearly 80-degree temperature at first pitch. Humidity is only 45%. We always want to keep an eye on the humidity there in St. Louis. They are right next to, what's that big river called? Oh, yeah, the Mississippi. They get some serious humidity that makes for some good home run weather. We're not quite there yet, but the wind is going to help our cause. We have Walker Buehler on one side. We have Michael Wacha on the other. I'm still leaning slightly towards the Biebs with his matchup, but talk to me about these two pitchers because they are arguably among the top three that we're going to be looking at on two pitcher sites for our ace. And I use the term ace lightly.
Yeah, tough matchup for both pitchers. You know, St. Louis, a right-handed heavy lineup for Buehler, who's been very good against righties. Really good against everyone since coming up, but still a lot of good hitters for St. Louis. And then on the other side, Wacha actually a little bit better against lefties because he has a good changeup that he can go to, but dangerous lefties in the lineup for LA, plus dangerous righties like Turner and Pollock. So it's a scary spot. Like the spot for Shane Bieber's not as good as Walker Buehler,
right?
But the spot for Bieber is better. I would in tournaments I would just prefer whichever of them is lower owned, but I just feel a little bit safer about the spot for Bieber because of the opponent. Buehler, though, I do like in tournaments. I think that he probably has more upside than Bieber just because he's more of a strikeout pitcher than Bieber is, and he does get this right-handed heavy lineup.
Yeah, because you've got Carpenter leading off. You just signed a 2-year extension. If I'm remembering correctly, I think last year was his career high in home runs. I think it was 34 or 36. So definitely, and I think it was last season where he just started out ice cold too, and then just really turned it on towards the latter 2/3 of the season. Colton Wong and Dexter Fowler are the other guys that'll be coming from the left side of the plate, so not exactly terrifying there. I think that's kind of going to wrap it up for us here, Adam. Any overall thoughts now that we've done a quick tour through our 10 teams in our player pool?
No, nothing else for me.
All right. Well, the best part coming from you is going to be the deep dive because the night slate pitching, Adam, you have Aaron Sanchez, Nate Eovaldi, Steven Matz, Kevin Gausman, Joe Musgrove, Jose Quintana, Pedro Avila, who was undecided, was the starter last time I looked at this, but it looks like it's going to be Pedro Avila there, Zach Godley, John Gray, and Jeff Samardzija. Nobody really striking fear into our hearts, and you'll be writing the deep dive here. We do have some weather concern, potential rain in with the Cubs, so keep an eye on that. But just hearing those names, anybody pique your interest as a sneak peek there for those of us behind the premium paywall here at Awesemo as to what we can see in the deep dive?
Definitely one I'm going to have to dig into a bit more. Not the most appealing slate.
Everybody's kind of in a tough matchup that
yeah,
we want to
I'll
go
say
to.
it's several pitchers that I have liked at one time or another, but Yeah, I mean, I guess John Gray in San Francisco is the one that really stands out.
Yeah, because you've got, I know you kind of like Aaron Sanchez, but goodness, he's going against the Red Sox. That's not exciting. You have Nate Eovaldi, who throws the heat with that very, very pretty, very straight fastball. But we've seen the Toronto Blue Jays disappoint time and time again thus far this season. We always have question marks against Steven Matz, but he's got a tough matchup himself there going against the Braves. Kevin Gausman on the other side. We'll have to see what occurs with him. I think this just his second start. I think he was on the DL to start the season there, so we'll have to see what he's got. But yeah, all of a sudden we're going to be looking at the seven total runs in that Colorado San Francisco game. Just for fun, it's 55 degrees there at first pitch, so and it's going to be getting a little colder when the sun goes down, so I'm liking that one. We should have the roof open in Arizona, not quite as hot as it's been, but it still should be in the mid 70s there, so this should be a fun one. Looking forward to it. But if you guys have not yet signed up, use the promo code early bird, all one word, get 50% off any 1 month subscription, and you can always sign up for a week. I mean, it's a great time to sign up now. We've got some incredibly robust slates there, single game slates for the Masters, which is going to be kind of fun because that is all eyes will be on that this weekend, and we've got plenty of paywall content that'll cover that. We've got single game slate projections, ownership, and then we have Ben Rasa holding court in the Slack chat, and then Jason does a turn on Saturday night, usually around 9 o'clock, to go over specifically the Sunday single game choices that you're going to want to make. And the weather here for Augusta, it's been shifting. It looked like Saturday was going to be a bad day at first, and then it looked like it was going to be Friday, and now it looks like it could be Sunday. So who knows what's going to happen with that, but definitely check that out. The single game PGA contests are, I guess, sort of fun, Adam, and I think they might have second or back nine contests now. Good God, at some point we're just going to be able to bet hole by hole.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Gotta love it. As we inch ever closer towards legalized sports betting, wink, wink, nod, nod. We're pretty darn close to it right now with DFS. With that, gamers, we're going to get on out of here. You can follow Adam at ShipMyMoneyDFS. I am at EMACDFS over there on Twitter. And, of course, it is Awesemo_COM. With that, gamers, good luck.